Emma stood at the edge of the vast, cold estate that had once felt like home. Wind rushed through the old birch trees, carrying whispers of a past she could never quite silence. The house, 3 stories tall with fading white columns and a cracked stone path, looked more like a museum of pain than a place where love had ever lived. Her voice trembled as she remembered the words that had changed her life. "You're not family, Emma. You were a burden we took in out of pity." Her uncle, Charles Whitmore, had said it so easily, as if he hadn't watched her grow up, as if she hadn't spent her whole life calling him Uncle Charlie. Emma had been 16 then, too young to understand greed, too old to believe lies. Her parents had died in a car accident 2 years earlier, leaving her with nothing but grief and a silver locket with their photo. The uncles she trusted had taken her in, promising to raise her like his own. But the promises, she learned, were easy for men like him, hollow and convenient. She pressed her hand against the front gate now, years later, feeling the cold metal sting her skin. The estate was quiet. Her uncle was gone. Heart attack, the papers said. But there was unfinished business between them, something that kept her awake for years. The lawyer had called that morning. "Miss Whitmore, you're mentioned in your uncle's will. It's complicated." Those words had made her chest tighten. She hadn't been Miss Whitmore in a long time. She'd stopped using the family name after he told her she wasn't one of them. Now, walking up that gravel path again, memories flooded back like ghosts rising from the soil. The day he first took her in, the loneliness of the mansion, the strange way the staff avoided her eyes. The house had always felt colder when he was around. Inside, the air smelled of old furniture and dust. The grand staircase loomed before her, polished but lifeless. Her heels echoed on the marble floor as she stepped inside. "You're only here because your parents didn't plan better." Her aunt's voice echoed in her mind. Emma smiled sadly. She'd heard it all before. But beneath all the bitterness, there had always been something else. A feeling she couldn't shake, like something was being kept from her. Now, with her uncle gone and the lawyer waiting upstairs with a folder of documents, Emma finally felt ready to face the truth, whatever it was. Emma had been 10 when her parents died. Her father, a successful architect, and her mother, a quiet painter, had raised her in a warm little house by the river. Nothing fancy, but full of laughter. That laughter had died the night of the accident. Her uncle, Charles Whitmore, was her father's older brother. He was wealthy, sharp, and respected in town. When he offered to take her in, everyone praised him. "Such a kind man," they said. Emma believed them. At first, she thought she'd be safe. The Whitmore estate was massive, with gardens that stretched for acres and a library larger than her old house. But she quickly learned that walls that big were built to hide things, not protect them. Her aunt, Margaret, treated her like a stray. She'd correct her table manners, comment on her clothes, and always remind her she wasn't really their child. Her cousin, Nathan, only reinforced it. "You're lucky, Emma," he'd say. "You don't deserve all this." Emma spent most of her childhood hiding in the library, reading old journals her father had left behind. That's where she found her first clue, an old photograph of her parents standing in front of the estate, smiling, and long before she was born. The caption read, "Home at last." She had asked Uncle Charles about it once. His face had darkened. "That was your father's foolish dream. He sold it long ago. Forget it." But she couldn't. Something about his tone, defensive, uneasy, lodged in her memory. As the years passed, the distance between them grew. Emma learned not to ask questions. She learned that love in that house was conditional. And when she turned 16 and asked about her inheritance, her uncle's patience snapped. There is no inheritance. You're not family, Emma. You never were. He said it like a blade, meant to cut deep, and it did. She packed a small bag that night and left. With no money, she moved into a shared flat, worked at a local diner, and tried to build a life. It was hard, but it was hers. Still, something always pulled her back to that estate in her dreams. The sense that her story there wasn't over. And now, years later, fate had brought her back. The lawyer's office inside the mansion was dimly lit, the curtains half drawn. Mr. Pierce, her uncle's longtime attorney, sat behind the mahogany desk, nervously flipping through papers. Your uncle's estate is extensive, he began, clearing his throat. But before we proceed, I must show you something. He handed her a worn leather folder, the kind that smelled of old ink and secrets. Inside were documents, deeds, contracts, signatures, and one name kept appearing, Emma L. Whitmore. Her breath caught. This can't be right, she whispered. Mr. Pierce sighed. Your father never sold this estate, Miss Whitmore. He placed it in trust for you. Your uncle managed it as your guardian after the accident. The words hit her like thunder. Then, all these years, he knew. Yes, legally, you've owned this property since your 18th birthday. Her hands shook as she turned each page. Dates, signatures, all in order. It was undeniable. Anger swelled in her chest, burning away years of silence. Her uncle hadn't just lied. He'd stolen her home, her legacy. She rose from the chair, pacing the room. The piano in the corner caught her eye. It was her mother's. She recognized the chip key her mother once told her she'd fix someday. The memory made her throat tighten. He said I wasn't family, she murmured, her voice trembling. But this proves I was the only one who truly was. Mr. Pierce nodded quietly. Your uncle never intended for you to know. He changed the locks, dismissed the old staff, but he couldn't legally remove your name. Outside, thunder rolled over the hills. It was as if the estate itself had been waiting for her return. That night, Emma wandered through the mansion's silent halls, clutching the deed. Every corner whispered betrayal. She entered her uncle's old study. Dark oak shelves, cigar scent still lingering. On the desk, she found a sealed envelope addressed to her. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Emma, if you're reading this, then I've already gone. I know you'll hate me, and perhaps you should. I did what I thought was right, but I was wrong. Your father and I built this house together, but I lost everything. My marriage, my pride, trying to keep it. When he died, I told myself I was saving it for you. But the truth is I couldn't let go. Tears blurred the ink. He'd known all along. A soft knock startled her. It was Nathan, her cousin, older now, eyes hollow. You found it, didn't you? He said quietly. Emma looked up. You knew. He hesitated. I tried to stop him once. He said you'd ruin everything if you found out. I was young, scared. I'm sorry. His voice cracked, and for the first time, she saw guilt instead of arrogance. He told everyone you didn't belong. Nathan whispered, because he couldn't face what he did, he wanted your father's dream, not his ghost. Emma's tears fell silently. He took my home, my childhood. Nathan nodded. And now it's yours again. The air between them was heavy with the weight of years, of lies, regret, and blood that couldn't be undone. Morning broke with pale light spilling across the estate grounds. Emma stood by the balcony, the deed and letter beside her. Below, workers cleared the garden her mother once painted, a forgotten masterpiece now overgrown. She realized then This wasn't about revenge or ownership. It was about truth. She walked to her parents' graves at the edge of the property. Kneeling, she laid the letter on the grass. "You always said truth finds its way home," she whispered. "You were right." For the first time in years, her tears weren't from pain, they were release. Nathan joined her silently. "What will you do now?" Emma smiled faintly. "I'll restore it, the way they dreamed it, not as a Whitmore mansion, but as the home it was meant to be." He nodded, eyes glistening. "You're stronger than any of us." Months later, laughter filled the Whitmore estate again. The renovations were nearly done. The old walls, once cold, now glowed with light. Emma had turned the mansion into an art and community center in her parents' names, the Lillian and Thomas Foundation for Hope. Local children played in the garden. The piano restored stood in the main hall. Sometimes Emma would sit by it at sunset, playing softly while the evening light brushed her face. She no longer carried anger, only understanding. "Family," she said in her final voiceover. "Husband who claims you, it's who remembers you. Who builds with you, not over you." The deed framed behind her desk wasn't a symbol of wealth anymore. It was proof that truth survives silence. As the screen fades to dusk, Emma steps outside, the wind catching her hair again. Only this time, it feels gentle. Home had finally found her. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, please share, subscribe to channel for more stories.